Today I thought it'd be a good time to do a minor update into the oil tanker industry because there's been some interesting news that's been reported from a lot of the companies. And as you probably already know, I think the oil tankers are undervalued. And over the next 2 or 3 years, I think the true value of these companies is going to be realized. Now, if you're new to oil tankers, well, I highly recommend going back and watching my 2-part series where I explain in a lot more detail what the thesis actually is. Also, I recommend not just taking my word for it, and I think you should go out and do some further research. For example, there is a YouTuber, Mario Skaznetsny, and he has some great videos on the oil tankers. But I do think I summarize things pretty clearly in my 2-part series, so go back and watch that. Now today I want to talk about these particular companies and topics. I'm going to start with Euronav and then Scorpio Tankers, Diamond S Shipping, DHT, and the current spot rate environment. Now I do plan to go into detail about each company's earnings when they release their Q2 reports in sometime in early August. But right now, we actually already have some information based on the press releases by some of these companies. All right, so let's get into it and let's go and see what's been happening in the world of oil tankers. First up today, we're going to take a look at the press release from Euronav Tankers. So Euronav have announced that they are going to be buying back their own shares on both the Brussels stock market and the New York Stock Exchange. They've bought back 3.3 million shares, which is around about $28 million worth of their stock. This represents 3.75% of the shares available on the market. So what this means is that there's now 3.75% less shares in the world, which makes the shares that we currently have, well, they're far more valuable now. And this strategy is employed by management companies in lots of different industries to return value to their shareholders, rather than just like a dividend or something. And this table, well, it shows the prices and amounts that the company have paid for the shares that they repurchased. And as you can see, they were doing it in late June and the first week of July. Now in this section is what the company has actually come out and said, and I'm not going to be paraphrasing this. I'll highlight the most important parts. The company will always look at stock repurchase as an alternative if it believes more value can be created for shareholders. As the share price is currently trading well below the company's own evaluation of intrinsic value, the supervisory board and the management board believe that buying back our own shares creates long-term value for our stakeholders. This share buyback reflects the strength of Euronav's balance sheet and the confidence of the supervisory board and the management board in the long-term value of the company's shares. It is important to stress that the return to shareholders is from net income generated from our capital base and does not impact the company's strong liquidity position. So if you were looking for a vote of confidence from the company, well, here it is. Now, I like share buybacks a lot. I much prefer it than a dividend, even though Euronav is probably still going to pay us a pretty big dividend anyway. See, the reason I don't really care about a big dividend, well, it's because I have to pay withholding tax on that, but the share buybacks, well, that increases the value of the shares and I don't have to pay tax on it. But of course, some shareholders just want dividends and I can't always get what I want. Now, back in May and June, when I was putting this tanker thesis together, I was expecting something like this to happen. So it's good that it is actually happening. And I also like that they've mentioned that the share buyback program isn't going to impact their debt. So what I mean is they're not taking out any more debt to do this share buyback program. So this press release, well, it's all good news from my perspective. All right, so now let's go have a look at the news from Scorpio Tankers. So Scorpio Tankers have also announced a share buyback program. The owner has also invested more into the future performance of the company too. See, he bought 550,000 call options, which means with his own money, he thinks that the stock price in 2021 and 2022, well, it will be much higher than it is today. Now, I don't normally care too much about insider trading actions, but there is something that needs to be said for an invested interest into your own company. When insiders are selling stock, well, we don't really know why. There could be lots of different reasons. Who knows? Maybe that person is going through some sort of divorce and they need to sell their shares. Maybe they want to buy a private jet. Maybe they want to start their own company, or maybe they just think the company they work for, well, it sucks and they should sell their shares and get out. But there's only one reason why insiders are buying shares. They must believe it is a really good investment and they're willing to put their own money on the line. So generally, insider buying is a good thing and insider selling, well, it's not necessarily a bad thing. And look, I try not to get too influenced by the insider buying from the CEOs or people like that because they're a little bit delusional sometimes and they're just too close to the business. Like the CEO, he probably started the company, so he probably treats it like his baby and he thinks it's the best company in the world. It's just like when every parent thinks their child is the greatest human being on planet Earth. So just take insider buying with a bit of a grain of salt. because it really shouldn't be the reason why you invest. But that share buyback program that Scorpio tankers are doing, well, that is good news. And even though I'm not an investor in Scorpio tankers, well, I am an investor in the oil tanker industry. So good news in the industry is good news for me. Now let's go take a look at the news from Diamond S Shipping. Diamond S Shipping Inc. announced today a strategic partnership with NORDEN, DiaNor, to facilitate the commercial consolidation of two of the world's largest owner-operators of product tankers. Craig Stevenson Jr., the CEO and president of Diamond S Shipping, commented, "We are pleased to further continue the much-needed consolidation of the tanker industry. We believe it will create substantial value for both our shareholders and our customers. The management of the combined fleet of around 90 MR2 product tankers will be handled from Norden's existing office locations in the US, Singapore, and Denmark, and become one of the largest within the segment." I'm not really sure how this is going to affect Diamond S Shipping's shareholder value. So I don't want to speculate on what might happen here, and I think we should be waiting for the conference call that's going to happen in early August. And there I can get a little bit more information into how it's going to actually increase the shareholder value like they said in that press release. So make sure you subscribe to my channel so you can be notified of when my next oil tanker update is ready. Let's now take a look at DHT, and this one got me a little excited. So this is DHT's latest press release. They said, in the current quarter, the company has made a voluntary prepayment of all regular installments for 2021, amounting to $25.8 million. Further, the company has agreed to voluntarily prepay all of the 2021 installments, which is $33.4 million. Now this is really good news because I'm really pleased to see debt being paid down as the priority. I think this is fantastic management. It's better than share buybacks and a dividend. The big reason why I like this debt reduction idea is because it's going to make the next 18 months a lot easier to make money. Look, the next 18 months, well, it could be pretty tough as the world is still recovering, and DHT, well, they're going to have far less expenses to be paid. The company estimates that the spot ships will need to earn $2,800 per day for the second half of 2020 for the company to cover all of its expected cash costs for the period. And the spot ships are estimated to need to earn $11,400 per day in 2021 in order to cover all expected cash costs for 2021. So for the rest of the year, the break-even point for the spot rates only needs to be $2,800, and next year, for the whole year, it only has to be $11,400. While for other companies, often VLCCs, well, they need about $20,000 per day to be breaking even. So I think this gives DHT a competitive advantage moving forward, and that the company is also going to be far stronger. Also, in the previous quarterly report, they said that they wanted to return 60% of the income to shareholders as a dividend. So I think a pretty big dividend is coming our way. So there's going to be a nice bonus, I think, from when earnings are released for Q2. Now, to follow along from DHT's press release, let's go now have a look at the spot rates for the recent period. Now, please remember, spot rates are volatile, so by the time this video even reaches you, well, spot rates may have changed quite a lot. So go take a look for yourself and look for the daily tanker market rates on this website. This graph shows the VLCC spot rates for the past 45 days for the different shipping routes. So we have been at least at around the $40,000 per day mark for the VLCCs, well, most of the time. Now remember, DHT said that they only need to be at $2,800 per day to cover costs for the rest of this year. So even though the rates have declined, well, they are still strong, and Q3 has started very well. This is historically also the weakest time of the year, so it is actually far above previous year's rates at this time. Now, DHT, well, they don't have Suezmax ships, but most of the other companies do. And the spot rates here are also really strong. Every shipping route is far above cost price for these ships, and they are making really good money. Now, sometimes when press releases come out, well, it makes share prices either jump up or crash down. So let's go take a little look. Now, this is Euronav, and as you can see, it has moved up a little, but, well, it is really still a beaten down stock. A beaten down stock that has just repurchased 3.75% of its own shares. Now this is Scorpio's stock price. Well, they haven't done anything really. Share buybacks and the owner buying 550,000 shares, well, it hasn't really changed anything. I didn't invest in Scorpio because their debt was worse than the others, but they also have the youngest fleet. I think they are a higher risk investment, but they are also beaten down. I wouldn't think you are crazy at all for wanting to invest. Don't forget to check out part 2 of my oil tanker series for more information about how I was choosing these companies. Now this is Diamond S Shipping. Now, I'm not sure what their press release means exactly, but the share price didn't do anything dramatic. So either the company is so neglected that no one cares anymore, or the press release didn't mean much. I'll find out more in about a month's time. DHT. Well, it couldn't do anything better for the company. Paying down debt is ideal as it improves shareholder equity and it makes it easier to make money in the future. But again, nothing happened with their share price. I think it is just a neglected company in a neglected industry. So generally, I would say there's a lot of positive news from the companies recently. And I would say that the signs are pointing positively to the thesis being on track so far. But in saying all of this, we are nowhere near back to some sort of normal world. This has been a very strange 2020, and I don't know when it's going to fully recover. So I still think we're going to see oil tanker spot rates fluctuate a lot, and we're going to see their share prices probably fluctuate too. But the stock prices have been beaten down a lot, so I really think the only investors who are left are the long-term investors like me. Think about it. If you were an investor, say even just earlier in this year, well, you've just watched the share price just get crushed. So if you can't stomach that pain, well, you've sold and you've got out and you've said, well, luckily it didn't go to zero. So the only people are left are hopefully people like me who are just going to ride this thing out and wait until it's back up to fair value. So to summarize, there's a lot of positive things coming out of the oil tanker world, but I still think it's going to be a wild ride. Now, I was already very confident on the thesis, but it is really good to see the companies that are taking action and improving shareholder value. Now, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on that next oil tanker update, and I will see you in the next video.